Okay, well, hello again and welcome to the Maximum Performance webinar series. I am head coach and CEO Erik Janeczko with Maximum Acceleration, the professionals coaching company, and we launched this series a little over a year ago, and actually we're celebrating our 60th episode in the series today, and so it's quite a momentous occasion that I get to welcome one of my favorite guest speakers to today's program to join us for this webinar series. Well, part of the reason we originally launched this webinar series was we wanted to create a community of learning, people who are dedicated to perfecting and refining their craft, willing to invest the time and energy in what they want to do to be able to make a difference in the mortgage market and in their communities. And so I think we've done a very good job of that, and today I'm excited to bring to you the programming we call Planning to Win 2014, 3 simple steps to knock it out of the park with purchase partners. Our focus today is going to be on helping you build your success strategy for 2014, and I'm just humbled, privileged, and honored to be greeting one of my favorite guest speakers for our webinar series, somebody who's been instrumental in my growth in career over the last 16 or 17 years in the mortgage industry here. Personally, I want to welcome Mr. Greg Frost, who is the mortgage industry's first billion-dollar originator. He was the first one to accomplish the goal of over 10,000 loans over a series of 15 years, and has become a great trainer, probably one of the best speakers, and I'm very privileged and honored to have Greg join us for today's program. So Greg, I want to give you just a chance to kind of say welcome to the group as we get started here. Why don't you go ahead and say hey to the folks.
Welcome, everybody. It's a great time to be meeting. I know it's December, and we've got cold weather and probably some declining loan applications, getting ready for Christmas, all kinds of stuff happening in December. So one of the things that I think is very important for all of us that are in production to do is to get a plan going for 2014, and this is a perfect month to do it. I always would sit down and do my business planning in December and get ready to start the year, watch football all day on January 1 and get ready to hit it on January 2, and that's what we've got in store for you today.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Greg, you were one of the first people who really taught me that failing to prepare is preparing to fail. One of those famous quotes that you often share. One of our favorite guest speakers, one of our favorite speakers, and one of the most influential people in a lot of people's lives is Hall of Fame basketball coach John Wooden, who was the winningest basketball coach, and if I'm not mistaken, he still holds the record as the winningest basketball coach in NCAA basketball throughout the seasons. And one of the things he always used to talk about is the importance of beginning with a vision and with the end in mind. By the way, guys, I do want to share with you just at the top of the call today a couple of quick things. One is that this is actually, the program that we're going to be sharing with you today is actually a snapshot in 90 minutes, a very compressed, condensed version of something that we share through live events and through workshops and web shops. And I know it's a little bit of short notice, but I promise you that at the end of today's program, we're going to introduce you to how you can get the full program through some of our live events that Greg has helped us do over the years, and a process that we've developed over the last 10 years of working together. By the way, we are going to be starting a web shop version, a 4.5-hour, 3 90-minute sessions starting late this afternoon, what will be 5 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Pacific Time. If you're interested in finding out about us walking you through this in an intimate, hands-on, small group environment, step-by-step, how to build your success plan for 2014, you're going to have that opportunity a little bit later today. If you go to our website, mxlcoach.com, you can check out information about that. But what Greg and I are going to do for you today is introduce you to just the basic nuggets of what it takes to build your own success plan, and we're going to give you some tools and resources. You're going to want to make sure you hang on all the way to the end of today's program if you can, because I'm going to be, any of the tools and resources that I'm going to introduce you to today, we're going to give you the opportunity to get access to those tools for no additional investment right at the end of this program. But the reality of what we're going to be talking about today is focusing on and developing how to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And it's really Greg, you were the first one to really share with me the importance of taking an attitude of investing in yourself and learning. I mean, I met you, and Greg, just to tell you a little bit of secrets on you here, I met you first, I don't even know if you remember this, back in 1999, or late 1998, at a Todd Duncan event in Southern California, was the first time I met you. You see, guys, I got in the business in 1996 as a junior loan officer working for a top originator who had two major problems. One is he was doing about 45 loans a month, but it was all refi business. I was his second junior loan officer. The other thing that my first boss had a bad habit of is he would wait until the very last minute to lock his loans. I mean, literally until like a day or two before closing, trying to maximize profits. Well, in 1997, after I'd only been with him about 8 months, we hit one of those fluke market circumstances similar to what we all experienced earlier this year in our industry, where interest rates jumped about 1.5 points. We lost about 400 basis points in pricing in a matter of a handful of days, and myself and another person were out on the streets looking for a job. Well, after about 8 months of beating my head against the wall and trying to make it on my own as an originator in a market where there was no purchase business to be had, no refinance business to be had, I finally realized the value and importance, and somebody introduced me to the idea of going out to this training workshop that maybe I could learn something that would help me grow my business. And it was at that very first workshop when I met you, Greg, where you shared some concepts and ideas with me. One of the things that's always stuck with me throughout my entire career is the importance of recognizing that we don't know what we don't know. And it's what we learn after we think we know it all that counts. Another one of those famous John Wooden quotes that you taught me very early in my career, and that's been absolutely instrumental. As an originator, I doubled my business year over year, 4 years consecutively, did over 237 purchase transactions my last 12 months in retail origination. And Greg, you're the one who's helped me do that. Without you in my life and without the influence that you've shared with me over the years, I don't think I would have gotten there. Now, one of the things that Greg and I had the opportunity to do later is back in 2004 and 2005, the next time that Greg and I connected, Tim Brahim brought us together to work on the development of a coaching company, which is now known as Maximum Acceleration. And during that time, Greg, you and I spent, gosh, I don't know how many hundreds of hours together working on developing this coaching system. And one of the things that we identified during that process is that for any idea to really shape who we are, it has to become a habit. We have to build the habits of success, and you were one of the first to influence my career in helping me establish those habits. You see, for any idea to really impact and create and allow us to transform who we are, it's got to become where it's our first and most natural response, where it becomes muscle memory. So as we start looking at how we're going to help you adapt and grow through 2014 and what the opportunities look like, we're going to be walking you through today basically a 3 simple step process that's going to help you create your action plan for 2014, decide what strategies you're going to implement to power up your purchase business, and then help you follow through on making sure that plan gets executed throughout the year of 2014. So as we introduce you to the concepts that we're going to be talking about today, that's where we're going to be talking first about setting some activity goals and creating focus and purpose on what's important about success and what you want to create in your business and as you grow throughout the year. And we'll focus a little bit on how to set and create a strategy of success based on the learning that Greg has to share with us today. And then I'll talk at the end a little bit about how to make sure that that plan gets executed. So I want to open up by talking just a little bit about what are we trying to create. I mean, Greg, as an industry thought leader, as one of the lead trainers and speakers and one of the most popular, how many hundreds of thousands of loan officers have you helped over your career? Why don't you share with folks kind of what is the vision? Where can we be, and some of the things you've taught me, if you wouldn't mind sharing a few minutes on the importance of volume goals and beginning with an action plan in mind.
Well, you don't know where you want to go until you sit back and you evaluate where you've been and where you are right now this minute. I like to ask people, in my audiences, I'll look out in the audience and I'll say, you point to one person, ask him, say his name. I'll say, Jim, how long have you been in the business? He said, 11 years. So I said, well, let me ask you something. Truly, honestly, are you in your 11th year of business, or are you repeating your first year of business for the 11th time? In other words, how much better have you gotten cumulatively over the 11 years? And everybody takes pause when I ask them that question in my audiences, and I'm the first to admit I've been at this business since mortgage banking, just straight mortgage banking, since 1985. So that's 95, 2005, almost 30 years. I'm not 30 times better than I was the first year. I promise you, I'll be the first to admit. I've probably had some significant growth in my professionalism and consequently in my performance, maybe 10 or 12 years out of those 30 years, maybe 10 or 12 years. So I like to have people think in terms of a 3-year stretch. It's short enough to where it's the objectives, you can see them on the horizon. It's long enough to where it gives you time to implement, to retool, make those in-flight corrections that you need to make, re-implement, and press forward. So I like to ask people, so what do you want your business to look like in 3 years? We've got this year, 2014, 2015, 2016. Where do I want to be in 2016, and how am I going to get there? What type of growth do I want to see? And I want to back into it. Where do I want to be in 2016? All right, where do I need to be in 2015 in order to reasonably be able to get there in 2016? Where do I need to be this next year in 2014? And most importantly, where am I today? All right, where am I today? What are my chances of incremental growth next year? Have I studied the market? Have I studied the industry? Am I aware of what's going on around me? Am I aware of the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac projections for next year being significantly lower than the production that we enjoyed in 2013? And if so, how am I going to step up my game in order to grow based on what I did in 2013 when the opportunity in 2014 may not be as great as it was this past year? How am I going to account for that? How am I going to create more opportunity? Because if I want to grow in 2014, based on what Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the industry experts are telling us about mortgage opportunities in 2014, I'm going to have to step up my game considerably. How am I going to do it? If I'm a loan officer, I've got to recruit into it. When I say I need to recruit into it, what do I mean? I've got to recruit and find more referral sources, because there's going to be fewer opportunities per referral source. So I've got to take a look at my referral sources. So again, I've got to do some more research and find out, where did my business come from? Where can I expect it to come from in 2014? If everyone's going to experience this diminished capacity in 2014, how many more people do I need to get on board to keep what I had this year and to increase what I had this year to what my goals are for next year? And where am I going to find those people? And how am I going to approach those people? What's my unique value proposition going to be? And how am I going to convince them to do business with me? These are the things we need to be thinking about. It's not just get up in the morning and go out and hope to hell the phone rings, or hope that I bump into somebody at the coffee shop. The traditional things I've been doing, understanding that diminished capacity, which we're being forecast for 2014, means I've got to do some things differently. I've got to expand my horizons. I've got to recruit into the numbers that I want to project for myself in 2014.
Absolutely. Greg was one of the first things that you taught me, and one of the fundamental things we uncovered when we were doing some of the initial planning and development. And what a lot of people don't know is, like, for example, if the business you guys were part of the business planning workshop series that was done between 2005 and 2011 by Lone Toolbox Organization. The original research and development work we did in building Maximum Acceleration as a coaching company was the foundation of a lot of what was used in those conferences. And one of the key themes of that is anytime we want to grow, change, or evolve, we're going to go through three very distinct phases: an assessment, planning, and execution. And what Greg has just shared with you is the importance of assessing where you are, where you want to go, and then planning out a roadmap to get you there. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the vision of what we want to create. And Greg, what you've shared with many audiences and what is consistent with what we developed and what you helped us develop with the Maximum Acceleration program, is that we start with that vision. Now, and part of the reason we start with that vision of where we want to be, and we begin to assess where we are now, but then we also want to look forward. I mean, one of the things we figured out in the research and development work that we did back in 04 and 05, Greg and myself and a team of about 6 other people spent probably well over 1,000 man-hours over about a 14-month period really understanding and studying what it took to create radical transformational growth in a mortgage practice or business. And one of the key things we uncovered during that time is that a lot of strategic planning companies have one fatal flaw, and that is that most strategic planning programs or processes that you get exposed to out there in the world, inside and outside the mortgage industry, is they start with what's called the SWOT analysis, which is an assessment, but it's a highly reactive way of doing it. It's just, assessing where am I and how do I change or evolve a little bit better. Well, one of the things we really realized is that we needed to start from a different place. We needed to decide exactly what we want our business and life to look like a year from now, 3 years from now, and then we need to back into it, just as Greg shared with you. So when we start in a planning process, where you really want to begin with is strip limiting beliefs for a second, put aside any thought about what's possible in the constricting market that we're dealing with right now, and let's just talk about, numbers aside for a moment, and practicality or possibility aside for just a moment. Ultimately, where do you want to be 3 years from now? Ideal perfect world, what's your ultimate vision of success look like? And open yourself up and give yourself permission to dream for just a minute and think about, in an ideal perfect world, what you would like your business to look like. What kind of volume would you like to be doing? What kind of income would you like to be making? What would you like your schedule to feel like? Do you want to be working 500 hours a week, or do you want to be working 5 hours a week kind of concept? And if you begin to think, well, I don't know, that may not be possible, put that aside for a minute. I mean, you guys are listening to today a gentleman whose team for 15 consecutive years did an average of 60-plus loans a month. And Greg and I could both introduce you to people who actually did more than that. Maybe not for the consistency and the duration that Greg did, but if you look at 10,000 loans over 15 years, that's a heck of a lot of loans. I mean, it's like 800 loans a year, right? So you're listening to a gentleman who's done what it takes to go to whatever level, and there really is no impossible what can you do. Now, I know you, Greg, didn't do that overnight. I know it took years of building. And then, what we're going to walk through as we go through into the later parts of today's programming, we're going to talk about the challenges and difficulties, but then we're not going to stop there. We're not going to allow ourselves to be a victim of the market. We're going to focus on what are the solutions to the obstacles and challenges we're going to face, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into how to make sure that we create that. So the first thing that we've got to look at when it comes to creating this vision is we've got to start with the end in mind. Like Greg shared with you, the importance is creating that vision of what we want our business and life to look like. Now, when we do this in our live coaching sessions, one of the most powerful and impactful things is what does really success look like for you personally? What are you trying to create? What is your ultimate purpose, and what are you, seeking to accomplish in your life? Now, for me, this came as a result of a very cathartic experience. In December 31st of 1998, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I was sitting on an MRI table, and at that time I didn't allow headphones or anything because it's a giant magnet that's clicking and whirring above you, and it takes about an hour to sit through it. Well, that was a result of a couple of days of getting pretty sick and So I had a lot of time to sit and think and reflect at that time. And one of the things that I really did have, a personal conversation with my Creator and had an opportunity to really reflect on, God, you've kept me alive through 2 major car wrecks, a plane crash, and now this MS, multiple sclerosis thing. What is it you have intended for me in my life? And for me personally, it was really, it launched me down a path that helped me realize that I'm here because I have great passion and desire for helping people transform who they are. My most important initiative in life is helping people get from where they are to where they want to be and creating lasting behavioral change and growth that's tremendously impactful to them. So my personal purpose and mission statement is service to my faith, my family, and service to other people. And as a result of that, I believe that fortunately I've been blessed to be able to accomplish a lot of great things for a lot of great people. We've helped to radically improve the lives of many people we've had the opportunity to work with. So as we've developed this coaching program and process, and as we've evolved through the development of the annual planning program that we introduce our clients to and that we walk them through step by step, the first step is okay, how do you identify what's most important to you? What is your vision for what you want your business and life to look like, and what does that create for you? So take just a moment, and if you're listening to this on video, pause the video for a second here and just think about the different areas of your life. Where do you want to be a year from now? And as Greg shared, maybe even do it at a 3-year clip. Where do you want to be by December of 2016? And then let's talk about what that ultimate vision looks like and how we go backwards to create that vision. Well, I certainly know that, Greg, you did not just, there's no way you could have done the volume that you did and as consistently and as long as you did without an overriding and driving vision. The other thing I know for a fact is that you didn't allow yourself to be a victim of the market. How did you and your team do that kind of volume that consistently over so many years where there were a lot of ups and downs? What was your secret to success, if you will?
Well, we focused on one area of the business and one area only, and that was realtor-builder referrals. So we focused on developing relationships early on with the most prolific realtors and the attainable builders, not necessarily the most prolific builders because the bigger builders were unattainable in many cases, but the most attainable builders, and believed in relationship building. So we became the fun place to do mortgages. We created all kinds of events. We bought a big weenie roaster from a custom maker of smokers. Those tow behind the pickup truck smokers. We bought one of those, and we started going to every real estate company and realty board function. Anytime there were 5 or more realtors gathered together, they were eating one of our hot dogs. And we became famous for serving great quarter-pound hot dogs on great seeded buns. We bought the high-quality dogs, the high-quality buns. We'd go anywhere that there was going to be a gathering, and we would cook hot dogs for everybody. And developed a relationship of giving back in the realtor community, giving back in the builder community. We're talking about builder open houses, realtor open houses, realtor gatherings, realtor golf tournaments, builder golf tournaments, builder openings, grand openings. They call us, we show up, and our deal was we'd provide 10 dozen hot dogs, 120 hot dogs. We'd show up with our weenie wagon, we call it the weenie wagon, and we'd come over with 120 hot dogs. I took realtors to breakfast every single day, took realtors to lunch every single day, builders as well. Every single day I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I would have breakfast with a realtor or a builder, with a realtor referral partner or a realtor prospect or a co-working realtor in an office of a realtor that I had a relationship with. I always made sure that I prospected and always made sure that I protected the realtors and the builders that I was doing business with, and I did it at breakfast and lunch every single day. So if you think about the math, there's 22 work days in a month. It's 22 breakfasts, 22 lunches. I'm not going to tell you I did it every day, because there were some days I had other meetings and I had something else to do or I had travel. But I'll tell you what, I bet there was never a month that I didn't have 30 one-on-ones with realtors and builders at breakfast or lunch during that month. 30 meetings minimum, and probably more. Now, I was at Todd Duncan's seminar here a couple months ago out in the desert. There was 1,550 people in the room. And I asked them for a show of hands. I said, look, how many of you had 40 one-on-one sales calls with your existing customer base and with your prospective customer base? Prospects as well as referral partners. How many of you had 40 such meetings last month? Not one raised their hand. How many 30? Not one raised their hand. How many 20? 7 or 8 people raised their hand. There's 1,550 people now. Okay, how many 15? Maybe 7 or 8 more raised their hand. How many 10? Maybe about 25 raised their hand. Bottom line, 1,550 people. There weren't 50 people in that room who had 10 or more meetings, one-on-one, belly-to-belly sales calls that they make to their existing realtor referral base, existing builder referral base, or prospective realtor and builder referral base. Now, I just give you that basic thing, and I talk about these basic relationships, but just that one basic tactic that I employed in 1985 when I began my business. That basic tactic is not being followed by very many people in the mortgage industry. You got to understand, the people that were at Duncan's seminar paid money to be there, paid for a hotel, paid for an airplane flight, or drove a long distance. They're the more aggressive, professional-minded loan originators in our industry. And there are 1,550 of them sitting in this room for 3 days, listening to the best of the best to talk to them about how they do it. And I didn't have 50 of them who had 10 or more one-on-one sales calls. Sales calls are the basic in sales. If you're going to be a salesperson, you've got to make sales calls. You can't do it over the phone. You can't do it over the text. You can't do it over the internet. You can't do it by email. You've got to get with these people, and you've got to develop a relationship with them. You can't build a relationship with somebody in a text message or email. Telephone call is closer, but it doesn't get it done. You've got to get out there, and you've got to press the flesh, and you've got to get belly to belly with these people. Look into their eyes. Let them know who you are. Help gain their trust, and let them develop a trust with you, and do it face-to-face, nose-to-nose. And that is just a basic sales strategy that has, for some reason, been lost in our industry. It's not stopping by their office and bugging them when you don't have an appointment. It's not dropping off this or dropping off that. It's developing a relationship which you cannot do unless you sit down and have casual conversation with somebody. And sharing a meal together is the easiest and best way to have casual conversation with somebody, find out about them, find out whether or not you like them, find out whether or not they like you, find out whether or not there's somebody you want to do business with. Not everybody that I've taken to breakfast or lunch did I decide I wanted to do business with. There have been people that I spent that hour with, and I got up and went back to my office and crossed them off my list. That's just not somebody I have anything in common with. That's not somebody I'm going to want to do business with. Get to know these people. And the beautiful thing is inviting somebody to breakfast or lunch is just like prospecting them. You're calling them on the phone. You're prospecting them to have breakfast or lunch with you. If they say no, guess what? They're probably not interested in doing business with you. If they say yes, they've indicated by virtue of their yes an interest in doing business with you. So you're already a step towards a business relationship. They're not going to come eat with you and spend a one-on-one hour with you if they don't have some interest in who you are, what you do, and are potentially doing business with you. So I would say to you We always were ahead of the game. I was always out front of my competitors by virtue of the fact that I created social events for them. And I started with breakfast or lunch. We used the weaning sheet. I had parties at my house during the holidays. I took people to the football games. I took people to the baseball games. We always had the weaning machine out at football games, had them all come by for a pre-game hot dog, post-game hot dog, seats at the basketball game. I never bought 2 seats to anything. I've always bought 4 to 6 seats to everything, and took people with me and had my assistant organize who was going with me to this game, who was going with me to that game. The biggest thing that my assistant ever did for me was schedule me for breakfast, schedule me for lunch, schedule who was going with me to basketball games, who was going with me to football games, who was being invited to the tailgate party, who was being invited to this cocktail reception, who was being invited to the group that was going to the Little Theater, who was being invited to the group that was going to the Civic Light Opera. Party, social event, activity, get to know people, break down barriers, and you end up with a very loyal cadre of people who enjoy doing business with you, who are like-minded, and understand that when you're working on their deal, you're doing your best. So you're not living or dying on your last deal. Your relationship transcends the transaction, and you are able to maintain relationships even when things are going a little tough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and Greg, one of the other things you shared with me early on that really was impactful in my career, and I've heard you share it with audiences many, many times as well, especially even here recently with all the events we did together, is that at the end of the day, guys, it's not about who, it's about how many. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a filtering process. I mean, you shared with the group in Oregon, Greg, the importance of knowing the numbers, and you walked through a process of how many agents in Albuquerque are worth your time, and it came down to about 170. But out of that, you don't even really need 170 agents sending you business, right? I mean, I think you were one of the first that taught me that, if you have 15 to 20 good, solid, loyal, committed relationships, partnerships with agents, that you're going to be able to generate the volume of business. And I think about it from this perspective, guys, those of you listening in the audience. If you had 10 realtors, or let's actually run some numbers, if you had 20 realtors who sent you 6 deals a year, how many deals is that, right?
120.
That's 120 deals, which is how many loans a month?
10.
That's 10 loans a month, guys. That's just from 20 relationships that you develop that you count on for a deal every other month in rotation, right? And how many agent relationships we can create that go way beyond even that level of loyalty and commitment. So at the end of the day, it's a filtering process of starting with creating the awareness and developing the interest in relationship to evaluate whether there's a level of opportunity for partnership, commitment, and then development into an actual engaged relationship. So one of the things that we do with our coaching clients is we walk them through a business development process. Now, for all of you, I've just posted into the chat window a link to a website that you can go to. You can go ahead and sign on and just go ahead and register, and you'll be able to download a copy of this spreadsheet that I've put in front of you. But let me walk you through how this thing works to be able to begin to identify and begin with the end in mind what the activity targets are that you need to be hitting every single month. Now, by the way, part of the reason we do this is, again, we want to put you in a position where you are not a victim of the market. You are using your marketing and the volume of lead generation activity that you choose to pursue to create the results that you want. Again, it's that begin with the end in mind, start with the vision of what you want, and work backwards of how to get there, right? And so one of the things that I've heard you share, Greg, many, many times is the importance of knowing your numbers and the importance of going through it. So here's how this thing works, this spreadsheet, and hopefully you've all had a chance to go ahead and log in and get this thing downloaded. It's, by the way, it's an Excel spreadsheet labeled the Income and Volume Goals exercise, right? So the first tab that you're going to come to when you open this thing up is the minimum performance goals. Now this is about kind of budget minimum. What's the minimum standard? And by the way, there's a question that says, will you share the spreadsheet with us after the call? If you guys look in the chat window, you'll see a link right there. It's www.mexcelcoach.com/solution. You can go to that website right now and go ahead and download this tool from the folder that's right there for you. But anyway, so here's what this looks like. So if I need to make $18,000 a month throughout the year of 2012, and that's where I want to maintain as a minimum standard of performance. So let's say I'm in an environment where I want to make $200,000 a year, or what works out to about $18,000 a month as an originator. Let's say I'm in a market where my average loan amount is $180,000, and my average commission rate is 150 basis points per loan. That's what I've negotiated with my company. Now, guys, by the way, I mean, this is use your numbers, what works for you. I know that some of you are in markets where your average loan amounts are $400,000 or $500,000. I guarantee you, you're not probably making 150 basis points. You may be in a marketing environment where a lot of leads are provided to you, and you don't really have to do a lot of marketing for yourself, and there's usually a premium paid to the company for that. So you may be in a market where you only are making 75 or 50 basis points because the marketing is done for you. Particularly if you're in like a bank environment where you've got walk-in traffic from a depository. So use what numbers make sense. The whole point of this spreadsheet, and just by the way, Robert, I saw in the Q&A you're looking for the link to be able to get this spreadsheet. It's www.mxlcoach.com/solution. It's posted in the chat section of the webinar platform. Over to the right-hand side of your screen, you can go ahead and get to that website, log in, and download this tool. Long story short, if you work the numbers on this, and then you get down to this line number 8 on the spreadsheet, which is lead to closing conversion. Now, if you're not sure what that number is, and again, like Greg shared at the top of the call, you got to look backwards to what was your performance. So if you're not really sure, pull up your loan origination software real quick and figure out how many loan apps did you take last year in 2013, or year-to-date 2013, how many loan apps did you take, and how many loans have you closed? Well, that would give you a ballpark percentage of what your numbers look like. So if we work this spreadsheet through, one of the things you're going to find, oops, I skipped ahead a couple of slides. One of the things you'll find is if you do this worksheet with these numbers, it comes out to about 3 leads a week is what I need to focus on to maintain that I'm closing 6 loans a month so that I can make about $18,000 a month in volume or income. Okay, that's less than a lead a day. Now, if I know that and I focus on that every single week, my mission is to find 3 families that I can help benefit from improving their housing situation, then I've got a real good head start on what I need to do to make sure that I hit my numbers every year. Now, the next thing that we want to challenge you to do is we want to challenge you to stretch and think beyond just the basics of the simple where you need to be every single month. I want to challenge you to stretch yourselves to a significantly higher volume. Whether it's a 3-year goal or whether it's where you want to be a year from now, December of 2012, December 2014, if we're sitting down and looking back what you've accomplished, where you want to be on a monthly income basis. Play with the numbers and see what it's going to take to get there, just so at least you have an idea of a target to shoot for, right? Well, let's say that my target for a year from now is to more than double my income, and I want to take it from $18,000 a month to $50,000 a month. Well, here's what my numbers would have to look like. I have to go to doing 8 loans, 8 leads a week. Now, over the course of a year, that may not be the easiest task to do. That may take, especially in a shrinking market, on purchase business. But let me ask you something. How hard would it be to just, literally, if you were cold calling out of the phone book anybody who had an apartment number in their address line, and of course, cross-check against the do not call list and make sure you're not, violating the law in that respect. But literally, how many people would you have to call? How many apartment renters would you have to call to find one family that's interested in becoming a first-time home, in buying their first home? I don't know what your numbers would look like, but I can't imagine you'd have to make more than 15 to 20 calls to find one family who wants to buy a home that's renting, especially in today's housing affordability, when we're dealing with the kind of how much house for the money a month you can get right now. Now, that may not be the easiest way to do it, but if you're looking at less than 2 leads a day at that point, right? 10 leads a week would be 2 leads a day. So 20 or 30 phone calls, how many hours would it take you to actually make that? Now, that's kind of the hard way of doing it. That's not the most sexy way of doing it, but that level of marketing volume, that level of phone calls would make sure that you would hit that income target. Now, what about, though, looking at it from a different perspective? What about if over the next 12 months, through a strategic, systematic process, You follow Greg's advice, and you go out and you do face-to-face, belly-to-belly meetings with realtors in your market who have the opportunity to refer you at least one good lead a week. And you focus on becoming a business development partner and asset to those individuals, helping them grow their business. It's not just about helping them get their deals done. It's about helping them get more deals. Think about shifting to the giving side of the relationship first, and how you can become an asset or resource to those realtors that helps them do significantly more business in the coming weeks, months, or year. So let's say you just develop 5 realtor relationships that are totally focused on generating one good buyer lead a week for their own benefit. Now all of a sudden you're doing your 3 leads a week, they're doing their 1 lead a week times 5 agents, and you've hit 8 leads a week easily. It's not that difficult to do. Now, by the way, one of the tricks that you can use, or one of the tools, or not tricks, tools or strategies that you can use is sit down and have a business planning conversation with your realtors. Ask them what they want to make and how you can be a resource in helping them do it. As you drill down, and by the way, on that website I gave you guys, there is a realtor business planning worksheet available that works out and drills them down on how many leads a week they need to generate per week to hit their income targets. So that's step 1, is what volume do we need to create? Now what's the next step in the process? Once we've identified what the activity target is, it's going to maintain and make sure that we are no longer a victim of the market, that our marketing allows us to be a victor, and that we're in the winning position. Now we've got to start talking about the strategies that we can use. What are the things that we have to begin to overcome to get to that volume? Now that you know if your target is 8 leads a week by December of next year, then what strategies are we going to use to do that? Well, as part of deciding strategy, now we want to go back and assess what are the obstacles or challenges that we're going to have to overcome, and what are the solutions to overcoming those specific obstacles. So, Greg, I mean, you've shared with me over the many conversations we've had over the last couple of weeks some of the different challenges that we're going to face, and what are some of the strategies or difficulties we're going to have to overcome. What do you see as some of the biggest obstacles that loan officers are going to have to counteract this year in 2014 as we try and grow towards a specific higher volume of activity?
Well, one of the things is the declining market. I mean, we know, based on a lot of smart economists, that there are issues out there with regard to a shrinking pie of opportunity. We know, for example, that the refi deals that we've been counting on for years and years are going to be minimized. I mean, realistically, who in the heck is going to refinance a 3.5% mortgage, and for what reason? Okay. I personally believe that we're going to see a resurgence of second mortgages. I think that we're going to see a securitization, either private enterprise securitizing these things and buying them. The bottom line is there's going to be a secondary market for second mortgages, standalone seconds as well as facilitated seconds, piggyback seconds. Because I think people are going to access their equity by means other than refinancing the principal balance of their first mortgage that's got a very low interest rate. There are still lots of Americans out there who have interest rates higher, considerably higher than the current interest rate. We're going to need to see property values get back to where they were. I read an article today that said in most parts of the country property values were back to where they were pre-2007. I think maybe in a few places like Southern California and Phoenix, Arizona, a few hot markets like that, maybe Austin, Texas, maybe a little bit in Florida. A few markets like that, you might see that to be the case. I know in my marketplace, property values are still below what they were in 2007. They have not appreciably grown. So I think we have to have equity created via property value increases. So those are some of the challenges we see, which suggests to us that we've got to focus on the purchase money business that's out there. All right, and we all know that our industry numbers, our industry volume, ability to do business has been bloated in the last 10 years by low interest rates and easy loan programs that allowed for refinances, and refinances were a huge part of the business. I don't believe they're going to be a huge part of the business going forward for reasons I've stated and several others that don't need to be stated. It simply isn't going to be there. So the pie is much smaller. The good news is the players are fewer. Okay? There are fewer mortgage companies out there, and there are fewer loan officers out there than there have been. So the industry has shrunk. Opportunity-wise, the industry's also shrunk by the number of people that are in our industry, practicing their trade in our industry. So the way I see us overcoming the challenges of less business is by being smarter about the way that we go after business, and smarter about the way that we find people to sell the people we find, and cross-sell everyone involved. In other words, we need to get back to basics, and we need to start selling in the ways that we sold for years and years and years. Augment what we're doing with technology. Augment what we're doing with the ability to rapid-fire communicate. But also stick back and get back to the basics of how we take that technology and we add it to our personal approach at selling. And one of the things that we forgot about, and one of the things that worked extremely well for me, is take a look at one loan transaction and understand that loan transaction is not the end-all of our transaction. It is the beginning point. It's the starting point of having opportunities to communicate with other people involved in the transaction who can also become a customer of ours. One of the things I look at is find people, sell the people we find, surely, but then cross-sell everyone involved in the transaction. Every time you get a purchase agreement, there's a seller involved. Has that seller already been pre-approved for their new mortgage? I'm going to tell you something. A lot of them haven't. A lot of them would welcome a timely call from a loan originator who just looked at a purchase agreement and was just working with a referred buyer from the selling agent. That seller over there has basically been told that they got to get out and find another house. They've got X number of days to do it. Many of them have not been pre-approved, have not begun the mortgage process, haven't picked a new home yet. Most times picking the new home triggers the mortgage activity. They haven't picked a new home yet, but they've sold their house, they're starting to look, and they're on a very short string now to get approved for the mortgage that they're going to need to purchase that new home. Timely telephone call communication by an aggressive loan originator is going to be rewarded with many opportunities. Here we call the seller within minutes of receiving a purchase agreement and offer them our services. And we convert several of them, okay? I think myself, if I were parachuted into your marketplace and said, Greg, we're going to parachute you in, you've got 90 days to start funding loans and making a living, what database would you like? You get one database, you get one choice. I think the database that I'd ask for is the database of everybody who just signed a sales contract to sell their home. I'd like to know everybody that just signed that sales contract. I'd like to know how to get a hold of them. That's the database that I'd like. And I'd call like crazy everybody who just sold their home, and I'd offer them my services. And I promise you, several would say, yeah, let me come talk to you. You called me at a very good time. It's just an optimum time to reach out to those people.
Greg, I know you've shared that strategy with me, and I don't know how many hundreds of loans I have done over my career and how many thousands of loans I've helped, loan officers that I've worked with in a coaching relationship conduct over the years using that one simple strategy. And guys, that's one of the reasons that I bring Greg on to these kinds of programming, because these things are not rocket science. They're not easy, but they're simple, but they're extremely powerful. I mean, it's how often do we tend to avoid the sellers because of that? And so, these are the kind of solutions and strategies that we want to begin to come down to. But, it comes down to one simple concept here. As we start looking for the winning solutions and strategies, as Greg mentioned, we're working in a declining market. We're dealing with the overcoming of the obstacles or the fact that there's a much smaller pie and fewer transactions. But, you know, there's an opportunity side of everything that we look at. I mean, and part of the reason I call it the El Honda effect. It's, you know, you guys have all had the experience where the car you just bought or the car you really want is the only car on the road and everything else gets pretty much ignored, right? Well, when you look at obstacles or solutions, it's the same kind of effect. If we're focused on the things that are holding us back and the challenges and difficulties, it becomes very hard to see the solutions. But the cool thing about that part of our brain is we can control it. If we shift our focus to the solutions, the simple strategies like calling the seller on the transaction that just got signed, that seller is a buyer 80% or better of the time. And Greg, you shared stats on what percentage of the time they buy locally. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is if you find a lead, you'll find a need. And how do you get in front of those people and how do you identify those people is just as simple as asking the question, who can benefit? I mean, the fact of the matter is, yes, interest rates have come up just a little bit. Yes, buyers have seen a little bit of an increase in property value with some of the markets with the interest rates climbing. But guys, if you looked at a historical recollection of what's gone on with interest rates, and I'm going to jump ahead to a slide that I want to share with you guys really, really quickly, and then I'll back up to some of the slides I just skipped by. But if you looked at a 220-year history of interest rates, all the way back to 1790, there's less than 5 periods in history where interest rates have been substantially below 5%. If you look at how much house for the money a month people can get right now, we are literally dealing with some of the best home affordability of the last 70 years. You'd have to go all the way back to pre-1970 to find a previous period of time where interest rates were hovering in the mid-5s. And what that has done for us is allowed us to be able to offer people the opportunity to get a lot more house for the money a month than at pretty much any time in the last, it's certainly, you know, 20 or 30 years, much less, I mean, and many of us, I mean, I've been in the business, like I said, since 1996. Greg, you've been in a lot longer than that. I have never seen a time where we've seen how much home affordability has had an impact on a buyer's ability to get into a nicer home. And part of the value of that, yeah, go ahead.
One thing to note, I got out of college in '72 and went to work for a savings and loan. 1972, the interest rates were 7 3/4%. Following 1972, we got into the Jimmy Carter administration. And Jimmy Carter's last year in office was 1979. And during that year, interest rates were over 18%. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, fixed rate. That period of time, and it was that way for several years, and that period of time precipitated and caused the industry to respond, and that's when you got your first adjustable rate mortgage, was in 1979, 1980. It was Wachovia Bank that came out with a negative amortization adjustable rate mortgage. So that instrument is relatively new, and it was precipitated by double-digit mortgage interest rates. There were double-digit mortgage interest rates until mid-1985. Then we got to single digits in mid-1985 through 86 until spring of 1987. In 1987, we had a blip. President Reagan upset the Japanese over tariff talks about Motorola cell phone chips, and the Japanese stayed away from the Treasury bill auction, and we saw interest rates go from 6 7/8% that they had dropped to in 1987 to 8 7/8% in 11 days. Shocked the industry. Business fell off. We lost all of our refinance opportunities at that time. So historically, like you say, Eric, there's been higher interest rates in relatively recent history. And
right.
People look now and they say 3.5, oh my God, they've gone to 4.5. Oh my God, I'm going to sit and wait. What I tell my loan officers and I tell my realtors when they talk about interest rate trends, we're at a historically low interest rate at 3.5%. Unbelievably historically low. And everyone said we were in a valley. What's the definition of a valley? A valley sits between two peaks. Okay, so when we're sitting in a 3.5% valley, we're sitting between the peak on the left on the graph, where interest rates were before they started down to 3.5%, and we're sitting at the beginning of the peak to the right on the graph, where interest rates are going to rise in order to verify that we were at a valley at 3.5%. They've got to rise. However, the history suggests that we're not anywhere close to interest rates that should be causing an emotional issue with people and cause them to decide not to buy. We're not even close to that rate.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the reality, guys. I mean, you know, think about what average rents are in your market compared to what that would buy people in a home, and even a 1 to 1.5 to 2% increase in rate. I mean, that's a significant jump. I mean, on a $200,000 house, a 2% increase in interest rate is a $4,000 increase in housing cost, or a little over $300 a month. But when we're talking about home affordability, where, you know, somebody who's paying $1,500 a month in rent could be buying probably a $220,000 to $250,000 home with principal, interest, taxes, insurance included. I mean, you know, what do you get for $1,500 a month in rent in your market versus a $220,000 home in your market? There's a huge disparity between the two. And the other thing is, what it really comes down to is who can we benefit? Well, we certainly know that renters can benefit. We certainly know that people who've had an increase or growth in their family size, you know, the couple that bought their first starter home 5 years ago at you know, a 1,300 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath rancher that's had 2 kids in the last 5 years, and they're busting at the seams in that little tiny 3-bed starter home. But they maybe haven't upgraded because of either negative equity situations over the last 5 years, or they don't think they can afford to upgrade because they're thinking with 2006 housing expense, you know, when interest rates were 6% or better. And, you know, so what are the people that can benefit? You know, think about the life events that drive people to want to move, and start talking to your business development partners about how you can reach them on a massive scale. So think about, who do you know that can benefit from the kind of housing market? And when we ask for service opportunities, when we're looking for ways that we can help people, we start asking who-based questions, because, I mean, just think about it. Answer this question for yourself in just a minute. Do you know the name of your best friend? Now, I just asked the question and apologize to those of you who answered no to that question. But the reality is, you know, our brains are pre-programmed to respond to very specific questions in very specific ways. If I wanted to know the name of your best friend, I probably didn't ask the right question, did I? If I wanted to know the name of your best friend, I probably should have asked, who is your best friend? Or what is your best friend's name, right? So start thinking about how you can add that to your conversations. Who do you know that has a stable job but is still renting right now? You know, getting your agents to think about their past client database and talking to them about, you know, how many families they put in homes 5, 8 years ago, that, you know, if they reached out to those folks and said, hey, you know, housing affordability is at an all-time high, there's an incredible opportunity to improve people's housing situation, taking advantage of this home affordability. So, you know, think about it for just a second, Mr. Customer. Who do you know that, for example, has a stable job, pays his bills on time, and is still renting the same apartment for the last couple of years? Maybe it's time for that guy to think about upgrading his property. You start introducing that in the dialogue that you have with people, then we can start to create huge opportunities. And so one of the things that we can often work on, and I spend a lot of time personally coaching our coaching members on, is just thinking about how to make a difference in the community and how to do so on a massive scale. You know, one of the things that a lot of our coaching members are getting great success and results with these days is what we call a home opportunity initiative. Now, I'm going to suggest something to you to think about here, and I know Greg has some ideas that we're going to share with you here in just a minute as well to add to this, but let me just give you a sample of how this works. I mean, think about lead generation and, again, service opportunity mining. Who do we have out there that we could provide value to? Who could benefit from what you offer as a loan originator? as a mortgage consultant, as somebody who has the opportunity to help families take advantage of improving their housing situation. So think about it from this perspective. Let's use fishing as an analogy for getting a lead. Now think about, there's two ways to catch a fish, right? I can fish with a rod and reel, or I can fish with a net. Now, fishing with a rod and reel can be a great way to have a fun afternoon, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong that keep the fish in the water instead of in my boat. And if I'm talking about feeding my family, is it a more reliable method of fishing to cast a net and filter out the ones that aren't quite ready yet and throw them back? You know, if I'm talking about percentage of, poundage of food per day brought in, fishing with a net's probably a more reliable method. Would you agree? I mean, the reality is, the other thing is we can talk about massive scale, fishing with a huge net like this. Now, here's the challenge. Can you catch or bring in a net that size by yourself? The obvious answer is no. We have to team up and we have to partner with the people who are in the market to benefit. So one of the things that we've got to think about is who can we partner with to make a bigger difference in the community? Well, obviously real estate agents is one, but the second element of it is who else can we bring on board? Well, I'll talk about insurance agents in just a minute and how that can work. But the second thing we want to think about is what's the power of leverage? What is the results of a true partnership? Well, one of the things that I found out a while back, and one of the ways that I've best ways I've found to kind of explain what I mean by partnership, is think about the draft horse for just a minute. I grew up in St. Louis area and in central Missouri, and every parade and like the Christmas parade and everything around our area, we always had the Budweiser Clydesdale. So I got fascinated by these things. I did a research project on when I was in high school, and I found out that there was actually a weight test study done around the turn of the last century where scientists were trying to come up with a unit of measure. It was what eventually became the term horsepower, right? They used the draft horses because that was the primary source of a large amount of force at that time. But what they found out is the average draft horse could pull about 12,000 pounds by himself. Now, obviously, if you had two horses pulling together, more independently, you would expect at least double the results. But the scientists ran into one problem. You see, when they teamed the two horses up and got them hitched together pulling the same load, the record is over 104,000 pounds of pull, or roughly 8 times the results of one pulling by himself. So one of the ways that we can help create massive results in the community and make a huge difference is by leveraging the strengths of the partners that we have to work with. So the way I define partnership is where we work together on a common initiative. We create essentially a separate project or enterprise set up for the mutual benefit of both owners. So now, instead of having to call realtors and beg them for business because I need a loan, I can shift my focus to calling agents and talking to them about how can we work together to increase the number of families that you help benefit through home ownership. See, now I'm shifting that conversation to one of where we're collaborating, we're leveraging each other's strengths, and we have the opportunity to do so on a massive scale. Now think about this for just a second. I approach a favorite real estate agent, and my real estate agent's new to the community and they haven't really built a footprint for themselves, so they're looking for a way to attract a book of business and to build relationships in the community quickly, but they also have a family to feed. So I talk to them about the idea of, okay, who have you made connections with? Well, they tell me that one of the best opportunities they've come across is they've bumped into an insurance agent that they really hit it off with, right? Property casualty insurance, a guy who does homeowners and property tax. I mean, not homeowners and auto insurance, right? Now, most of you may be thinking that an insurance agent's not a great referral source because they get involved too late in the transaction. Usually by the time the borrower's calling the insurance agent, they've already got their loan secured. In fact, they're probably close to the finish line. But here's the challenge with insurance agents. They have massive databases. I mean, most insurance agents make less than $100 a policy per year. So they literally have to have thousands of policyholders, a big, huge book of business to be successful as an insurance agent. So a database of that size probably mirrors the home ownership demographics of your community. if your community has about a 60% home ownership rate, it probably has about a 40% non-home ownership rate, which is probably going to be reflected in that insurance agent's database. So let's say you've got an insurance agent that has 1,000 customers in his database. That means that there are 400 families in that database that are non-homeowners. So you and the realtor and the insurance agent develop an initiative together to reach out to those people and share with them what they don't know about how much home affordability exists in the current market, and you do so through a strategic marketing campaign that you leverage technology like the Vantage Production Platinum Marketing System to use some of the letter templates and documents that are in that system to introduce folks to the the Home Opportunity Initiative, and you send out a broadcast messaging to that insurance agent's database, encouraging them to find out if now is the time to take advantage of the housing market by giving them a free home opportunity evaluation. You see, the law of caring says people won't care how much they know until they know how much you care, which is a great asset when it comes to developing strategic alliances with realtors. But there's another more important law of caring, which is we don't know what we don't know until someone cares enough to show us. So, Greg, you've got some great strategies that you've taught the industry over the years. Can you reinforce just a couple of the key quick ones and give some of the highlights of how our audience can take advantage of these strategies in the current market?
PowerPoint for me?
Yeah, I did. I tell you what, let me go ahead and plug some of this in for you. Like, for example, one of the things you talk about frequently is how to attract and develop attention with realtors and do some of the unique things. Like, for example, your staff lunches.
Let's start there. We talked about breakfast and lunches, how critical that was. Let's talk about something else. Realtor tours. There are a lot of title companies who sponsor realtor tours. Okay, we get involved in realtor tours, and what we do when we get involved in realtor tours is we bring breakfast. Typically, the tours are on Tuesdays. The people have all come to a realtor meeting. We bring breakfast to the realtor meeting, and we go on tour with the realtors. Every time we do something like this, we like our logo involved, so we bring breakfast burritos. Okay, that's a carne adobada burrito that you're looking at there, which is pork meat soaked in chili with eggs and potatoes. It's very delicious. And we'll bring a carne adobada breakfast burrito. As you can see, we bring a napkin with the Frost Mortgage logo. We put it in a sack with the Frost Mortgage logo. We bring a bottle of water. We buy those labels. We buy Kirkland, Costco water. We relabel them with the Frost Mortgage label, with the loan officer's picture on the label. And that's how we go and participate with realtors on the realtor tours. Again, we get on a tour with 10 to 12 realtors for half a day. We go to 7 or 8 houses with them, and we get to know them, we commiserate with them, and we feed them. We give them something to eat. We're known for that. We're always bringing food and appropriate food for an appropriate occasion. Let's go ahead and click forward. Own their desk. I like to have lots of tchotchkes, okay? And I give them to realtors at different times. When I take a realtor to breakfast or lunch, typically I will see each of them at breakfast or lunch one time a month. That means I'm going to see them 11 times a year. Don't do a lot of breakfasts and lunches during Christmas holiday because everybody's got their holiday gatherings. So I really focus on getting to see them every single breakfast and lunch, once a month, every single realtor, prospect, referral partner, 11 months out of the year. I don't leave them without a takeaway. They've always got a takeaway. So there's a pen or a mug or a sticky note, a sticky note dispenser, or a scratch pad, or you can see there on the keyboard a little place to rest your palms of your hands on the keyboard, a mouse pad. Okay, you see things all over their desk. I believe in owning the realtor's desk, and the reason for that is other people in the real estate office look at the desks of the more prolific realtors in the real estate office and see what they see. And if they see my face and my logo all over the realtor's desk, they assume whether this is an agent I'm wooing or whether this is an agent I'm working with, they assume that this agent's doing business with me And so if this agent happens to be one of the most prolific agents in the office, which are the only agents I choose, then the other agents pay attention to this agent, and they might come to the conclusion, which many have, that I am a significant part of this realtor's success, and they probably should get to know me. So it's very easy for me to step and prospect other realtors in that successful realtor's real estate office. Let's go to the next slide. All right, here's something we do that's a lot of fun. Like I said, I like to be the mortgage company that people, it's fun to do business with us, okay? We call this our port up party. You've got to be careful how you pronounce that. Every realtor has a birthday, so we take a birthday party to the realtor's office on their birthday. So we show up late morning before lunch. We show up with a birthday cake. As you can see on the top, it says happy birthday, and it's got the first name of the realtor. The only variable on that cake is the first name of the realtor. I use an Albertsons store. I use their bakery. We've designed this red, white, and blue cake. The only variable, the only personalization is the first name of the realtor. So they box the cake up. You see we have a frost placemat. We have a frost napkin. We have 10 forks, 1 knife, 10 plates, Frost Mortgage plates, and 10 Frost Mortgage coffee cups. So we take a porta party to the realtor's desk. We call them in the morning, first thing, ask them if they're going to be around a little before lunch. Yes. Okay, I'd like to come by and drop something off. And we come in and we say happy birthday to them, and we drop this porta party off at their desk. Now, why do we do this? It's a quarter sheet cake, by the way. You do this whole thing for like 25 bucks. It's a quarter of a sheet cake. It's personalized. We take it to their desk, and there they have an opportunity to show off the fact that their loan officer did something special for them. And we have 10 plates and forks and napkins and coffee cups, so 10 people can come and have a piece of cake and have a portable party right at their desk. Everybody likes to feel special, and we like to make people feel special. The folks at Frost Mortgage are the people that like to make their realtors, their builder reps, feel special, and we do that on their birthday every single year. Let's go to the next one. We use the services of Loan Toolbox to get out information. I told you that I never leave a breakfast or lunch without a takeaway. I have the tchotchkes, but I also make a presentation every single breakfast or lunch of at least partial content of the Loan Toolbox Business Boosters. We use the Business Boosters, and I'll take a yellow marker before I go to breakfast or lunch. I will mark up key points on the Business Booster. I print it on slick paper, and I take it along with me, and I say, look, I'm really happy to see you this morning. Thanks for joining me for breakfast. Let's cover a little business first so I can write this meal off. How's that? Here's some things I'd like to show you. And I go down the Business Booster, and I've already yellow marked it. I've got a copy. They've got a copy. And I say, read along with me. We read along, and I do a little training. I give them a little information out of the Loan Toolbox Business Boosters. And I offer suggestion and any anecdotal information that I might know about the topic or about other people who have practiced what the topic is suggesting that they practice. I take that into the conversation with me. So we do a little business at every breakfast or lunch. I'm not asking them for business. I am their educator. What am I attempting to do? I am trying to establish myself as an authority in their business. Okay? Cialdini's Principles of Ethical Influence will tell you that once you are recognized as an authority by the people that you're seeking to do business with or are doing business with, it breaks down lots of barriers. It builds trust. It's one of the essential pillars of ethical influence. And so I try to do this by having some takeaway reading material every time I take somebody to breakfast or lunch. Let's move on.
Hey, Greg, I'm going to, just in the interest of time, I'm going to jump into, we've got a ton of ideas here, guys, and we're, we zipped through a ton of information very, very quickly. And there's one thing that I want to make sure we crystallize just before we're done. What Greg is basically telling you all here, and what I want to remind you of, is the importance of focusing on being that resource and accountability partner to those agents. When you start focusing on how to really help them grow their business and give those tools and resources and materials to them, in effect what you're becoming is you're helping them with their execution and planning, which is the final step in the business planning process, which is how do you follow through, create your action plan, engage the action plan, and then refine the execution throughout. And one of the reasons that that happens is that we create a consistency and focus of results. We start to track what we're doing and how we do it, how many people we're reaching, and what results we can create as a result with those agents. And one of the key things that that helps us do is as we start looking and learning every experience, good, bad, or otherwise, and the outcome, we want to take the time to stop and ask the question, what can we learn? We can't change the past. We can only learn from each experience. So as we start to do that, and as we start to extract those key lessons, that's where we have the opportunity to become a true asset and resource, to where each time we sit down with an agent and we talk about an initiative like doing the porta parties and using those tools and resources to help agents grow their business, or working with the agent to understand how they can network better and use who questions to identify key opportunities in the market, or to how to present themselves as a key asset or resource to the buyers in their community that they already have in their disposal. That's where the leverage that helps them create what they're looking for in their business, that's going to help them get to the volume goals that they want to achieve throughout the course of the coming year. What we're really talking about doing is creating or using a tool to create massive leverage with those business development partners. You see, lever is a simple machine, and you got a bar and a pivot point. If you push down with 100 pounds of force on one side, you're going to get 100 pounds of lift on the other. If I'm just not using that tool properly, if I've got that pivot point right in the middle. But all of a sudden, when I shift the pivot point just a few feet to one side, all of a sudden I get massively different results. So what are the leverage points that you can create with business development partners? And some of what Greg has shared with you is today, and what we've hoped to help you begin to identify, is there are a lot of opportunities out there to where you can create massive value with business development partners. But one of the best ways to do it is offer your support, guidance, and value as an accountability partner. I mean, the reality is, think about the top performers in the athletic world, the Michael Jordans, the Wayne Gretzkys, and the Tom Bradys of the world. What did they all have in common? Well, they all had somebody to hold them accountable and was a mentor, somebody who would give them the outside perspective, somebody who would challenge them to push to the next level, to do that extra 10 push-ups or run that extra 5 laps or whatever it is they needed to do to spend the extra couple of hours practicing on that one skill. You see, skill development is also about refinement and practice. You don't pick up a cello today, expect to play a Mozart concerto tomorrow. It takes years of focus and energy and effort to develop the skill. And what you can become for your business development partners is what we call an accountability partner, a masterminding buddy. And Greg, I know that you built a healthy percentage of your success was built on that concept alone. Why don't you share with the folks just a little bit about how you used to do your mastermind events, for example, and how did that kick off and get started?
Our mastermind events that we're doing internally? Or are you talking about my Realtor Success Partners lunches?
Your Realtor Success Partner lunches.
There we go. What I started doing, I thought to myself here in Albuquerque, New Mexico years ago, and it's kind of still the case, we're such a small market that the prominent sales trainers in most industries, particularly what I care about is the real estate industry, they just don't come to Albuquerque because the market is too small. And it was much smaller, when I was getting started in the 80s and 90s. I became exposed to some of the top real estate trainers in the early 90s. Mike Ferry, Walter Stanford, Floyd Wickman, some of the folks that were the founders of training in real estate. And I went to a Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat in Palm Springs at the encouragement of a good friend of mine, Bill Gross, who was running a branch for CTX Mortgage in Diamond Bar, California. He says, Greg, you got to come to this. He says there's 1,500, 2,000 realtors there. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And he said, yeah. He said, why wouldn't you want to be in a place where there's 2,000 realtors? I said, I'm going to go there and try it and see it. So I went to this. It was a 3-day seminar. It was Mike Ferry's Mortgage Superstar Retreat. And I looked on the agenda, and there was one person there from New Mexico. They were from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Nobody from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Albuquerque is the largest metropolitan area in the state. And I sat there for 3 days with a bunch of exciting realtors. Oh my gosh, it was a great conference. And I went up and introduced myself to Mike Ferry afterwards, and I said, I noticed you don't have anybody from New Mexico. I said, I'm a mortgage banker in New Mexico, and I have a following of realtors. I said, I'd like to talk with you about starting to get people involved. And of course, I was attempting to negotiate with him, some favorable terms, etc., for his services, for his training. And he complied, and he was very nice about it. And I bought everything he had to sell for 50 cents on the dollar. He says, and I said, I'm going to go back to New Mexico, and I'm going to expose my realtors to you folks and see if I can't get them involved in your training. He says, great. He says, take everything. He says, I'll sell it to you for half price. He said, any help you need along the way, et cetera, et cetera. I said, all right. So I came back, and I put together 11 different trainings out of his fill-in-the-blanks training that he had. The best training, I listened to everything, I read everything, and I put together 11 modules that basically were 11 30-minute presentations of the Mike Ferry sales training system for realtors. And I've created it in a fill-in-the-blanks format. And I've started inviting realtors. I invited like 12 realtors. I had a table at a Japanese restaurant where you all sat around low on seats low and the table around, and it's kind of unique. And I invited a dozen realtors to this lunch, and of course, 9 showed up because 3 of them had out-of-town buyers and all that crap excuses they make. But 9 showed up, and I passed out the fill-in-the-blanks training. I said, one of the things, I went to this guy's sales seminar. He's a real estate sales trainer. I'm very excited. He's a phenomenal teacher, and I wanted to share some of the things that I learned. And I gave a 30-minute presentation, which was very easy to do because we just did fill in the blanks, and I asked the questions, and then I gave them the answers, and they filled in the answers, and I talked to them. I remember the points that Mike made on the 10 or 11. It was a 30-minute presentation. It was only 10, 11 points, and I remember the points because I studied them, and I made my Ferry presentation. So then the next month I did the second one. Well, the word got out, and people started saying, "Can I bring somebody with me? Can I do this?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, I don't want the group to get larger than 12. I said, because then it gets unmanageable. I said, but let's do it at 12, and I'll start a second luncheon. Well, the bottom line was I ended up doing a training luncheon on the first week, the second week, and the third week of the month. I didn't do it on the fourth week of the month because it's the end of the month. We got loans to close. I don't have any time for that. So I had 36 realtors meeting with me every month, and I taught them the Mike Ferry sales training, and I went through the modules. And then I helped them the next Superstar Retreat. I got some of them to go to Palm Springs, and I got Mike to give discounted tickets so that we could take a group out there. I ended up buying 4 timeshares, 2-bedroom, 2-bath timeshares at the Marriott Desert Springs Resort where Mike held his event, so that I could, this is before RESPA, so that I could bring realtors out, put them up in these 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and have us all go out there and be together during his 3-day Superstar Retreat each year. That's how far I took it. The bottom line is, let me just tell you, not only did I build my business, and not only did I exponentially have other realtors saying, my God, I'm getting great training, Greg Frost is providing good training, they all wanted to come to this luncheon, and I only had room for 36, so I created scarcity by stopping it I stopped it at 11 realtors because I was the 12th, and the table only sat 12. And so I created scarcity without understanding back then Cialdini's principle of scarcity as an ethical influential pillar. I created the scarcity. I had 36 realtors meeting with me every month. I'm training them. They're doing business with me. Life is very, very good. And the coup de grace was, one day I got a call from one of the realtors, and he said, Greg, he said, you know, you've been so kind to us. He says, a few of us would like to take you out to lunch. Can we take you out to lunch if you have time to go to lunch with us next week? And I said, sure. And we went to lunch. They're all smiling. They're kind of coy. And I said, what are you guys up to? And there was 3 guys and 2 gals. He said, we want to know if you'll form a real estate company with us. We want you to own a real estate company. We want to work for you, and we want you to continue to train us and only us, and have us be the best real estate company in Albuquerque. These 5 realtors wanted me to join them in a real estate company as the controlling partner. They want to give me 51% of it. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I think that's like the ultimate aha that you could possibly get. And it all came because I brought value, massive value to them in the form of training. I became the authority in their business, like Cialdini says. I created scarcity, another pillar that Cialdini says. I was the first to give, so I created reciprocity, another pillar, is like Cialdini says. So all these pillars of positive influence I was doing by having this training that I was doing and bringing this education and this information to these realtors on a regular basis. And if they still talk about it to this day. I do it now in a different format. I call it lunch and learn, and I go to their offices and I train them on sales principles, real estate sales principles. In fact, I travel to my branch partners that I have working with me in my network in Illinois and in Pennsylvania and in South Dakota and Iowa. I just came back from Iowa and Illinois and did a couple of lunch and learns with their realtors, bringing this principles, bringing this information to them. And by bringing value and being the first to give and making yourself an authority by bringing them good information, good sales strategies, good skills, you can endear yourself to them and you can create a relationship that will overcome just about anything, okay? I mean, we all do a good job at taking loan applications, processing loans, closing loans. You can only refine that process so much. Essentially, you need to close on time and communicate during the process, and if you do that, you're a hero, all right? But to take something else and take yourself above that and get yourself out of that realm and into a whole different realm of influence with those realtors is what we've been able to do by bringing them education and information on how to build their business.
Absolutely. Greg, I mean, you were one of the first to share with me the importance and value of investing in yourself and becoming a student and having a desire and passion and hunger for knowledge. And as a result of what, I learned from some of the classes and some of the workshops and some of the coaching that I invested in my early career, that's what enabled me to do the kind of growth that I was able to achieve. And that's also the investment that we can make in others. And so for all of you listening on this call, and I do apologize, we're going to run a little bit long. I know that you guys are liking the value that you're receiving, and there's a lot more information we would love to have the opportunity to share with you. But there's one kind of final point I want to anchor with all of you, is that you have the opportunity to be that kind of advisor, that kind of support resource, that guide of information to the agents and business development partners that you have the opportunity to connect with in your market and create similar results. Guys, our coaching clients every day experience the value that they receive and the benefit of going beyond and above, just like Greg did with the masterminding partners who eventually, the people who were part of his lunch and learn groups that invited him to become a partner in a real estate firm. I mean, gosh, that's pretty amazing results. Whether that happens for you in the next year or not, it remains to be seen. But the reality is, if you become the trusted advisor that provides credible knowledge and information, that you help them view their world from the outside in and bounce ideas off them and give them feedback and guidance and advice on what they couldn't see for themselves, but then also hold them accountable. I mean, one of the most important things that we've learned over the last 10 years of doing coaching professionally here is, in 1998, Brigham Young did a research study about what it really took to implement. what they realized is that, if it's a good idea, great, we got a 10% chance of implementing. If we say what we want to do and when we're going to do it, we have about a 60%. If we commit to somebody else and tell them what we're going to do, well, that percentage goes up a little bit. But the magic secret is setting a specific time to complete an action item, sharing with somebody we trust and respect, and asking them to hold us accountable at a specific date and time. If we do those three things, specific action plans, so specific time for completion, and accountability on the follow-up where they call us at that specific time, we have a 95% chance of following through on the ideas that we want to implement. And you can provide that for your business development partners. So think about how to create accountability for yourself, something often called the running buddy concept. And just as a wrap-up to today's program and what we've been talking about, I want you to think about just one quick thing. If you were to commit to this vision, strategy, tactic, and implementation process that you've been shared with today, what would your business look like a year from now? And what level of growth could that have on you? For example, if you were to think about it, one extra loan a month, for most loan officers, that's about $2,000 average commission in our industry right now. If you did that times 12 months, that's $24,000 a year raise, and what impact would that have? Now, at the end of the day, our coaching program typically runs around $1,000 a month, and our first goal is getting you to where you're getting a 2 to 3 times, a 200 to 300% return on your coaching investment within 60 days. And we hit that target about 80% or better of the time. But it's not just about the coaching paying for itself 2 or 3 times over. I mean, guys, if you knew that you could invest in something and get 3 times your money back, how much money would you put into it? See, it's not about that alone. It's about creating lasting habit change. We focused on transformational growth and doing the step-by-step refinement, work, and support that holds you accountable to becoming a different person through the work that we do, through walking you through the assessment, planning, and execution process, and following through. So I'm going to share with you just a couple of opportunities that you could take advantage of, that if you are serious about taking your business to the next level and you want to get some help, support, or guidance in creating that result for yourself. By the way, guys, you can do this without a professional coach. You can do it by developing an accountability relationship with a boss or a colleague or a mentor or even a referral partner or a realtor that you work with. But if you are serious about taking your business to the next level...
Just let me interrupt for a second. And I know you're being nice. Just let me interrupt for a second. And I want everybody to know out there that I've had more success than I probably deserve as a mortgage originator throughout the entire time from 1988 on to today. I've had a professional coach. And I just want, Eric, I just want everybody to know that. I am who I am today because someone held me accountable on a weekly basis to do what I said I was going to do, to evaluate to make a plan, to plan my work, to work my plan, and to be consistent. And as a result of that individual working with me and me agreeing to work with them and invest in myself, I enjoyed tremendous success in the industry. And you're being real nice, but somebody needs to hit these people over the head and say, listen, if you aren't worth the investment, who is? You're the professional. You are the breadwinner. You are the one that must perform and must be successful. Why on earth would you not invest in yourself? And with that, Eric, I'm going to let you finish, and I'm going to say goodbye. But that needs to be said. And even me, the guy that's out there, as a platform speaker, I'm not a coach. I'm a platform speaker. I can't do what you do. I can't do what your coaching team does. I'm a platform trainer. Even I have a coach and have had a coach since 1988 and wouldn't think of letting my coach go because I have somebody that knows more than I do about several things, and he's willing to share it with me, and he's willing to look at me and tell me, hey, you didn't get your job done this week. You've got to get back on track. You need to make sure these things happen next week. I've got somebody like that in my life. I've had somebody in my life like that since 1988, and I encourage all of you to give serious consideration for 2014. It's going to be tougher than it's ever been. You need to have everything going for you that you can possibly have. Arm yourself with an accountability partner and someone who can look at you objectively and tell you exactly what you need to hear based on what you're doing and, more importantly, based on what you're not doing. And with that, I'm going to thank everybody for listening. I'm going to say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Greg. And I know we ran a little bit long. Guys, I can't tell you how powerful this relationship has been for me over the years. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for you, Greg. Thank you for your time and energy today and the effort you've put into this audience. You poured a ton of information and value, and I can't thank you enough for joining us for today's program. Guys, as Greg said, it's about taking it to the next level. It's about putting the investment in yourself. There is nothing that will yield a higher rate of return than the education and skill that you develop. Your earning potential, like Greg said, he's had a coach every year. He's been in the business since the very beginning, and still to this day as a professional platform speaker around the industry, he still continues to do it. I can tell you personally that I've invested tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching over my career, and the dividends and returns in that investment have been, the earning potential. I mean, heck, the very first coach I hired that cost me, that I invested, probably about $6,000 that very first year of coaching back in 1997 or 98. What I learned in that first year and what I've implemented over the course of my career, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, have I earned over the last 20 years based on the knowledge and skills that I developed through that coaching relationship in the early years. Guys, there's a couple of different opportunities that I want you to be aware of just as we're closing out today's program. One is I mentioned at the very top of the call that this is a 90-minute snapshot of a process we normally do in a 6-hour, in a full-day live event, or in a free 90-minute session webinar web shop that we do. If you want to go ahead and get the next couple of bits of this and you want to go more detailed into the personal development of your business and strategic plan, there's an opportunity to do that for only $97 for 3 90-minute sessions. This program does start. It's our Planning to Win web shop, which starts this afternoon at 3 o'clock Pacific, 5 Central. If you're interested in registering, just simply go to mxlcoach.com. Right at the top of the main homepage, there's a button that looks like just what you see on your screen. You can click here to get started, get registered for this afternoon's program, and we'll go a lot more in depth into the follow-up through and action planning this afternoon, tomorrow, and Thursday afternoons as we go forward. The other opportunity is if that web shop program doesn't work for you, we offer the home study course version of the Planning to Win Summit, which I'll walk you through step by step, building your action plan one layer at a time and drill down on all of the more detailed action items that we just didn't have time to share with you today. And as Greg mentioned, if you're interested and serious about taking your business to the next level and you're looking to invest in coaching, there's 2 different ways to do that. One is that we offer what we call our live maximum acceleration experience, which is a live interactive demo. We'll do some live coaching. If you're interested in getting some one-on-one coaching directly as part of the program, you'll have the opportunity to participate so that we'll be able to go forward on there. That next event is a week from today at 11 o'clock Central, Tuesday, December 17th. If you want to get registered for the next group, Maximum Acceleration Experience, we'll kind of walk through in a little more detail what you get with the coaching program as well at that time, and you'll be offered the opportunity to go ahead and invest in yourself at that point. You can go to mxlcoach.com/webinars and get the full details on that. The other opportunity is if you're pretty sure that you're ready to take it to the next level and that you really do need the help, support, and guidance of a coach to get you to the next level in 2014, and you want to be able to get that support and guidance to radically transform your volume, to hit that 300-400% growth possibility and try and get that return on your investment. The best way we found to help you experience and understand the value of coaching is to talk about the details of it and to actually experience it through what we call our one-on-one strategy sessions. Now, we only have a handful of these available each week because it's based on the limited capacity of our coaching team to be able to offer these strategy sessions. But if you're interested, you can go ahead and go to mxlcoach.com/strategy and request a one-on-one session with one of our coaches. The other way you could do that is if you want to go ahead and just post the best phone number and email address for our team to be able to get a hold of you, to be able to schedule one of those one-on-one strategy session appointments. You can go ahead and post that in the okay, quick question, Terry. Well, let me finish up real quick, and then I'll answer some questions here in just a second, guys. But anyway, if you want to go ahead and take advantage of the mxlcoach.com the strategy sessions, go ahead and just post the best phone number, email address in the Q&A section that you'd like one of those strategy sessions, and our team will get a hold of you to schedule an appointment with one of our coaches for that. The last thing I want to share with all of you is you've invested an hour and a half of your time in a great training program. Greg poured a tremendous amount of information into you over the last 90 minutes. You have some great ideas to get you off and running with a full head of steam January 2nd here. And so here's what I want you to do. Before you answer your next phone call, before you look at that next email, ideas without action are useless. They only have value if you act on them. So as your coach, I want to challenge you to take action on what you've learned from today. So before you take that next phone call, take 30 seconds and follow this little action planning process here at the end of today's webinar. 1, what was the most valuable thing you heard in the program? 2, what action do you need to take to make it a part of your daily business for yourself? 3, by when will you have that action implemented? And 4th, who will hold you accountable? If you don't have that person to help chase you out of bed and take you jogging every morning, you know, I mean, the reality is I always usually talk about it as the running buddy analogy. Long story short, that, you know, let's say I want to lose some weight for January and I start a jogging plan. Well, I go out and jog the first couple of days of January, and I get to January 5th, and I'm tired and sore and exhausted. Every muscle in my body aches, and it's cold and wet and nasty outside. Am I going to just hit the snooze button, roll over, and go back to sleep and never go jogging again? Because you see, guys, it's so easy to break the promises we make to ourselves. It's so much harder to break the promises we make to somebody else. You see, because if I had a running buddy who I knew was going to be on my doorstep, and it's January 5th, and it's cold and wet and nasty outside, and I'm sore, and I don't want to go jogging, but I know my buddy's going to be there to go with me at 5:30 in the morning, I'm probably going to get up and do it because I made a promise to somebody else. That is the magic secret of implementation for 95% of the population, is that accountability. The person you make the promise to that you trust and respect enough that they have the power to hold you accountable to following through on those actions. If you need that relationship, we'd love to offer our services to be that accountability asset for you, to invest in you, and to make sure that you stay the course and grow through the coming weeks, months, and years. You see, our only goal is helping you achieve your goals as fast as humanly possible. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and take a break for just a second. I'm going to read through some of the questions that have been posted, and then I'm going to try and respond to a few of the quick questions that we had here. Somebody indicated, Terry, you indicated that you were interested in the DVD home study program. There is actually not a discount code. That one actually is you download the order form directly from the website, and it will be registered at the $147 price. The web shop for this afternoon that you can order through the shopping cart that I mentioned back here just a little bit is for the Planning to Win web shop that starts at 3 o'clock Central, or excuse me, 3 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Central this afternoon. Is you register, and it's $97 for the 3 90-minute sessions that will be taking place later this afternoon. All right. So that's the Planning to Win web shop, the 3 90-minute sessions taking place today, this afternoon, Wednesday and Thursday of this week, which, by the way, those sessions are going to be recorded as well and provided to all registered attendees for the web shop version of the Planning to Win Summit. If you want the home study do-it-yourself DVD course, that will be $147. What you'll do is go to the website, download the enrollment form, fill it out, and fax it into us for the $147 order opportunity for that homecoming, that home study course Planning to Win Summit. and the templates and everything. Okay, and then like I said, the last opportunity to find out more about the one-on-one coaching program is go ahead and sign up for the strategy session or go to the website and register. Either way, whether you prefer to experience it first in a coaching in a group environment, you can sign up for next Tuesday's demo on the Maximum Acceleration Experience, where I'll go through kind of what the coaching process involves and how it works, or you can sign up for the one-on-one opportunity for the strategy session by going to mxlcoach.com/strategy, or you can go ahead and post directly into the Q&A section of the webinar platform what you're looking for. All right, so there's another question. There's another question here for the DVD Home Study course. Elaborate on what that includes. So what basically the Home Study course is we did the Maximum Growth Summit, which is a planning process we walk you through. It's about a 4.5 to 6 hour workshop, depending on who some of the guest speakers are. But we walk you through this 5-step planning process, step by step, as a group. The last one we did at the NAM National Conference in Las Vegas back in October. Greg Frost and Renee Rodriguez and a couple of other great speakers were a part of that program. We recorded that program, and we have available on a DVD Home Study course. It also does come with all the tools and templates that you need to be able to execute your business development plan, and it'll walk you through it step by step, which, by the way, you'll have to be able to use every year to help you develop your action plan for the coming year. That's what the Home Study course involves. Let's see. Okay, so going back through some of the other questions more on the content of the program today, any suggestions on how to get a seller's phone number and contact information? Yeah, directly off the listing sheets and directly off the contract. When you're looking at the offer, for your buyers, that's one way to do it. Let's see. One other thing I did want to address for everybody in the audience, there were a number of questions asked earlier in the program about RESPA issues. We are not attorneys, and we're not qualified to necessarily answer your specific company's legal opinion of what is or is not a thing of value. Worst case, if you offer to go to lunch to brainstorm and communicate ideas with business development partners like realtors, kick around some suggestions, strategies about how the two of you collaborate better to reach a larger volume of buyers who could benefit, or sellers even who could benefit from the current housing opportunities. Go Dutch. Split the bill so that you're not stepping on any toes from a RESPA standpoint. One other quick question I'll address. Many questions were asked throughout the course of the program about a copy of the PowerPoint and the recording of today's program, as well as the tools and resources that were demonstrated or mentioned during the course of the programming today. What happens is as soon as we are done with the program, our team starts working on the editing and rendering and transcoding process for the video. This platform requires us to go through a process that takes several hours of work behind the scenes to get the video formatted so that it can be posted on YouTube, as well as to reformat the PowerPoint in a format that's easy to transmit because they're large volume files. But as soon as those two things can be done, usually within about 48 hours, we'll get an email out to all the registrants with today's program with those tools, materials, and resources attached. So you'll get a link to the video from today's program, you'll get the PowerPoint, you'll get the tools and resources that were mentioned, the planning worksheets, and those tools will be coming out along with that follow-up email, which will be, like I said, usually by end of day Thursday, we'll have that in your inbox. So just be watching your email for that. Beyond that, like I said, if you're interested in taking advantage of the live web shop program that will be taking place today, tomorrow, and Thursday, you're welcome to participate, or the Home Study course version, which is the Do-It-Yourself, Keep It Forever program. Either of those two opportunities are available. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to have to jump off the phone line here. But I'll be leaving the platform open for just a few more minutes. Any last questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to go ahead and post them into the Q&A section of the platform right now. If you are wanting to take advantage of that one-on-one strategy session, go ahead and just give us the best phone number and email address to be able to let our scheduling team get a hold of you and go ahead and reach out and get that appointment scheduled with one of our coaches sometime in the next couple of days here. Other than that, there are any other final questions you want to go ahead and get posted in here, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A. My team and I will make sure we reach out to you and follow up on those questions as we move forward with today's program. Otherwise, guys, I want to thank you and congratulate you all for being the few, the proud that are taking the time, energy, and effort to invest in yourselves and the skills that you're looking to refine and perfect. I wish you all the greatest success throughout 2014. If there's anything my team or I can do to help you in the pursuit of a higher goal and higher volume of revenue and a better lifestyle for you and your family, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. That's truly one of our greatest passions in life. My personal greatest passion is seeing the transformation that can come from the kind of work that we do. One of the great blessings of being a coach is the gratification and satisfaction of seeing transformation take shape and new habits be created and the kind of successes that can create for people. So really my only goal, first and foremost, the true, one of the greatest desires of my heart is to see people achieve a significant growth. And so to that end, if there's anything my team or I can do to help or support you in your growth, please don't hesitate to ask, because that's our only mission, is helping you achieve your goals as fast as humanly possible. Make it a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.